Hello. I haven't recorded a podcast episode in quite a long time. And in the time that I took off, I spent a lot of time thinking about what I would want to talk about if and when I came back to it. I think that we tend to get boxed into niches and categories because it's human nature to want to label and categorize. It feels good to know where things fit, so we do this to other people as well as to ourselves. But like most people, I am interested in innumerable subjects. I want to talk about whatever is lighting me up in a particular moment in time without concern for it fitting my brand or category. I have found when I do this, when I stay in a designated lane, so to speak, I get bored. I feel uninspired. It feels like work, and I don't want it to feel like work. I want it to feel like the creative outpouring that I need in order to feel balanced. And this is what brings me to the topic of this episode. Over the last few years, like so many others, I have experienced what can only be described as a spiritual awakening, something that feels like a slow return to both myself and the universe. One of the most fascinating elements of the metaphysical path, the one that has absolutely captivated me, is the idea that energy and consciousness aren't just internal experiences. They're forces that shape the physical world around us. This idea has absolutely gripped me and spiraled me deeper. It has lit up both the mystical and the analytical sides of my brain. Because I'm a science and data nerd at heart, I get absolutely giddy when research validates what the mystics seem to have always known. My favorite resources on these topics are the ones that blend personal storytelling, metaphysical insight, and scientific evidence in a way that doesn't just make sense, it makes magic feel real. It's where wonder meets proof, and where the question becomes not if we shape reality, but how we're doing it every single day. As I've expanded my spiritual practice through daily meditation and journaling, Reiki, channeling, communication with spirit, and deep connection to the natural world, I've also immersed myself in the teachings of others through books, articles, podcasts, YouTube deep dives, and even TikToks, all offering insight into the true nature of reality. It's through this blend of personal experience and curious study that I've shaped what I want to share with you today: an exploration of energy, consciousness, and how they shape the world around us. Like my favorite resources, this episode is designed to be a compelling mix: part storytelling, part mystical philosophy, part scientific evidence, all pointing to one powerful truth. So to begin, we are heading to the 1970s, to a surprising corner of Princeton University. It was then and there that an undergraduate student named Brenda Dunn initiated a project to study the impact of human intention on mechanical devices. She collaborated with a physicist and the then dean of the engineering school at Princeton named Robert Jahn, and together they established the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab, also known as PEAR, P-E-A-R. Through the PEAR Lab, they dedicated nearly 3 decades to the research of human consciousness and its effect, particularly whether consciousness has the power to alter the course of events. In their experiments and research, they used machines called random event generators, which are electronic devices designed to produce sequences of completely random numbers, kind of like flipping a fair coin thousands of times. They conducted thousands of experiments with these random event generators, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that they discovered. The first thing they discovered is that human intention produced statistically significant effects on random outputs. So the human participants in these experiments were called operators, and they were asked to influence the random event generators in subtle ways, like trying to produce more ones than zeros. Over time, the data showed small but statistically significant deviations from randomness that correlated with the operator's intention. The second thing that they discovered was the effects were subtle but consistent across large data sets. Individual trials showed minor influence, but when compiled over millions of trials, the patterns revealed a consistent anomaly in the direction intended by the participant. The third thing they discovered was that the operator-device relationship mattered. Some people produced stronger effects than others, and intriguingly, the pairing of certain individuals with certain machines resulted in more significant deviations, which suggests a kind of bond or resonance between human and device. Number 4, they discovered that distance and shielding did not seem to affect the outcomes. That means operators could influence devices even when they were far away from them, suggesting that whatever was occurring was not bound by physical proximity or mechanisms. And then the fifth thing that they discovered was emotional and psychological states played a role. So participants who were relaxed, focused, and emotionally engaged, but not overly effortful, tended to produce stronger results. This hints at consciousness qualities like intention, belief, and emotional alignment being key. Things got really interesting as these two researchers' line of inquiry evolved into a larger initiative called the Global Consciousness Project, founded by Roger Nelson, another PEAR researcher. Robert Yan and Brenda Dunn were heavily involved in supporting this work, and the Global Consciousness Project carried their original ideas into the collective sphere. The Global Consciousness Project asked, what if the same mind-machine interaction we observed with the individuals could occur on a mass scale during events when millions of people are emotionally synchronized? We're talking about events like global tragedies, mass meditations, religious ceremonies, and cultural celebrations. The Global Consciousness Project used a global network of random event generators placed in dozens of countries and tracked random data continuously and analyzed it in relation to significant world events. Here's what they found. Emotionally powerful events correlated with statistical deviations from randomness. So, they evaluated data gathered during the 9/11 attacks, gathered during Princess Di's funeral, New Year's celebrations, major sporting events like World Cup finals, and large-scale meditations. And during these moments, the random event generators' data showed patterns and deviations that indicate collective human consciousness created coherence in the field. In other words, when a large number of people experience a shared emotional focus, their collective consciousness may imprint a kind of subtle order on what should be random data, suggesting that consciousness may be non-local, which means outside of our bodies, interconnected, and field-like. This data shows us that while individual intention creates tiny deviations, collective emotional coherence creates larger, more noticeable ones. It's not just about how many people are involved, but how deeply they feel and how synchronized their attention is. What began as a question about mind and machine evolved into a much deeper inquiry. Not just can consciousness shape reality, but how it does so. And if that's true on a collective scale, what might be possible on an individual scale? That brings us to energy healing and my personal experience with a practice called Reiki. Reiki is a therapy that originated in Japan based on the belief that an energy field can be manipulated to promote healing. Certified Reiki practitioners use light touch or hovering hands over a person's body to help restore the natural flow of energy, which can be blocked or off balance, leading to illness or stress. Reiki is considered a complementary therapy, which means it's not a replacement for medical care, but rather should be used alongside conventional medical treatments. A typical Reiki session goes something like this. You book an appointment, and upon arriving at your Reiki practitioner studio or sanctuary, you chat about any blockages, imbalances, or other issues you may be experiencing. This is emotional, mental, physical, or energetic issues. From these details, you and your practitioner will identify the goals of the session, even if that goal is as vague as stress reduction and relaxation. You remain fully clothed and lie on a table similar to a massage table, complete with pillows, blankets, and an eye mask. Depending on the goals of your session and the preferences of your practitioner, you will be guided into meditation along with some recorded sound therapy or singing bowls played by your practitioner. Reiki is administered by the practitioner lightly placing their hands on or above your body for 30 to 60 minutes, but never in an intrusive or inappropriate way. This is very light, gentle touch. The practitioner does not use their own energy. They act as a conduit for universal life force energy to flow through them to your body, targeting specific energy centers known as chakras. The session wraps up with a 5 to 10 minute chat about what you both experienced during the session. Common sensations during a Reiki session are warmth, tingling, twitching, deep relaxation, and feelings of peace. It is possible to experience emotional release, visions, pulsing energy, meditative states, and even profound spiritual experiences. I will never forget the first time that I received Reiki. My solar plexus chakra, which is located in the stomach area, became activated to the point that it was twitching and pulsing and physically moving for most of the session and continued to do it for hours after. And then there's some people who don't experience any physical sensations at all. That doesn't mean it's not working. Okay, so here's where things get all sciencey and interesting with Reiki. I'm going to tell you about a study that when I read about it, it stopped me in my tracks. Back in the year 2000, a psychology professor named Dr. William Bengston teamed up with a researcher named Margaret Crinsley. Together, they conducted an experiment that sounds like something out of a sci-fi healing temple. But I promise you, it's real, it's peer-reviewed, and it's repeatable. Here's what happened. They injected mice, lab mice, with a strain of mammary adenocarcinoma, a form of breast cancer that's 100% fatal. In untreated mice, the tumors grow aggressively and the animals die within 2 to 3 weeks. That's the known trajectory. That's the scientific expectation. But this group of mice, they were assigned to receive energy healing. Every day for 1 hour, healers held their hands near the cages, channeling what's often described as Reiki, or what some traditions call the laying on of hands. Just energy and intention. No medication, no surgery, just presence. And what happened next is astonishing. The tumors shrank. They disappeared. The mice didn't die, they healed. Their little bodies returned to balance and their lives resumed. But that's not even the wildest part. When those same mice were later re-injected with the exact same cancer cells, they did not get sick. Their bodies now recognized the threat and mounted an immune response. They had somehow become immune to cancer. This wasn't a one-time fluke. It happened in multiple replications of the experiment. As astonishing as those results are, they are not isolated. there's a growing body of research that supports the idea that our energetic and emotional states have real physiological effects. And perhaps nowhere is that more compelling or more measurable than in the rhythms of the human heart. And this brings me to the Heart Math Institute's findings on the role of emotion and coherence. So let's take a moment to talk about the heart. Not metaphorically, though, yes, always metaphorically, but biologically, energetically, and electromagnetically. This organization, called the Heart Math Institute, they have been quietly revolutionizing how we understand emotion, energy, and the body's internal communication system. Here's what they've discovered. The heart isn't just a pump, it's an electromagnetic powerhouse. It generates the strongest rhythmic field in the body, about 100 times stronger than the brain's electrical field and 5,000 times stronger magnetically. That field extends several feet beyond the body. You are emitting it right now into the room you're in and into the energy of the people near you. You are emitting that energy into the fabric of the moment. Now, here is where it gets really fascinating. When you feel emotions like love, gratitude, and compassion, the rhythm of your heartbeat becomes smooth, coherent, and harmonious. And when that happens, your brain waves begin to sync with your heart. Your stress hormones drop, your immune system improves, and you enter a state they call physiological coherence. It's measurable, and most interestingly, it's contagious. Studies show that when one person enters coherence, others nearby begin to sync up, like instruments in an orchestra slowly falling into tune. To me, this proves something many of us have always felt but didn't really have language for. And that is that your emotional state is not private. It is participatory. It radiates and is felt so deeply by others that their heartbeat and brainwaves change. I find this evidence especially validating because we've all felt this, right? I know I have felt this, and in fact, I feel it often. When someone is near me and they don't have to speak or communicate with me in any way, but I feel their energy and it affects me. I can feel if they are off in some way because I feel slightly dysregulated. Conversely, I can sense in my own body when someone is feeling happy or calm because I begin to feel happy or calm too. So just by existing in whatever state we're in, we are changing the room. We are shifting the energy field. And this is a perfect segue into one of my favorite topics, manifestation and the law of attraction. Manifestation is definitely a word that gets tossed around a lot these days, sometimes flippantly, sometimes with reverence. And depending on who you ask, it's either a cosmic cheat code or a total TikTok cliche. But beneath the buzzword, there is a powerful, ancient, and often misunderstood truth. And that is that your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are not just personal. They are creative forces. And the universe is not passive, it's responsive. We often hear it called the law of attraction, which, simply put, is the principle that like attracts like. That the frequency you emit through your dominant thoughts, emotions, and expectations becomes a magnet for the people, experiences, and opportunities that match it. But this isn't just wishful thinking or spiritual optimism. There's actually science that supports this idea, just not always in the ways you might expect. Your brain has something called the reticular activating system, or RAS. It's a filtering system that decides what to focus on out of the billions of bits of information around you. And here's the key. It filters based on what you believe is important. So if you start telling yourself, I am a magnet for opportunity, or I am worthy of love and success, your reticular activating system starts looking for evidence to support that. You begin to notice the open door, the smile, the synchronicity you would have walked right past before. It's not magic yet, but it's not magic either. Your brain is literally helping you perceive a new version of reality based on the beliefs and energy you are broadcasting. That's what your brain is doing, but your thoughts don't just stay in your head. They ripple through your biofield and affecting your emotional frequency, your posture, your tone, your nervous system, and how others experience you. If we go back to the Heart Math Institute's findings, when you carry the energy of joy, gratitude, or trust, people feel it. You become magnetic. Opportunities unfold more easily because you're not forcing anything. You are aligning with it. In energetic terms, we can describe this as you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. At this point, we have to touch on quantum physics. But I don't want to get uber sciencey here, so I'm going to keep this as light as possible. The quantum realm is the world of the very, very small subatomic particles like electrons and photons that are the building blocks of all matter, of everything in our physical world. In the quantum realm, particles behave differently when they are observed. It's a concept known as the observer effect. One of the most famous demonstrations of this is the double slit experiment, where particles like electrons or photons are fired at a screen through two slits. When no one observes those particles, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern, as if they exist in multiple possibilities at once. But the moment someone observes them, they behave like particles and they collapse into a single defined path. So what this means in the simplest terms is that the act of observation or consciousness changes the outcome. It's as if reality is waiting to see what you believe, what you expect, what you're paying attention to before it decides how to behave. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure story that only reveals the next chapter when you decide which direction to look. What this suggests, philosophically at least, is that consciousness interacts with possibility, that intention or focused awareness may actually influence how reality collapses from probability into actual form. It's one of the most poetic intersections between science and spirituality, and it echoes what mystics, witches, and shamans have known for centuries, and that is that reality is fluid and your focus directs its flow. Here's where I think the conversation about manifestation often goes sideways. It's not about controlling every detail of your life through positive thinking or vision boards, though those can be beautiful tools and I do use them. Manifestation is about learning to tune your frequency to the reality you want to live in, and then letting the universe meet you there. One of my favorite ways to kind of play with the universe and work on my manifestation skills is to manifest tiny, inconsequential things. The first time I did this, I asked the universe to send me a giraffe. And the key here is to align your energy with receiving whatever it is you're manifesting. So you have to fully believe and trust that you will receive what you're asking for without putting any limitations on it, like when or how you will receive it, or even what it will look like, or in what form it will come to you. So I said, universe, send me a giraffe. And I fully trusted that I would receive a giraffe in some form. Not only did I trust, I thought about that giraffe multiple times, and I felt anticipation and excitement about what it would feel like when I received it. A day went by, then 2 days, then 3 days later, I opened my email inbox, and there in the subject line of an email was a giraffe emoji. I stopped dead in my tracks because I instantly recognized that this was my giraffe from the universe, and I laughed because the universe had literally sent me, via email, a giraffe. I knew without a doubt that my energy had brought this giraffe to me because I had aligned with it. Okay, so as I wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with some practical steps you can do to start using your energy to manifest with the universe. If you want to begin aligning your energy to shape your reality, these are a few tools I return to again and again. The first is visualization. Not just seeing what you want, but feeling it in your body. This is really important. Think of how you will feel when you have what you want. Spend time putting yourself in that state. Will you feel secure? Will you feel expansive, abundant, free, relaxed, powerful? Feel those things as you imagine you and your life with the thing that you want. This is what will align your energy to it and attract it to you. The second tool is journaling, writing in the present tense as if it already exists. For instance, I love the way my new home feels. It is light-filled, peaceful, it is deeply mine. Translating your thoughts and feelings and wishes from your brain to paper or screen is powerful, and so is speaking them. You know how something feels more real when you talk about it with someone else? That applies here too, even if you just speak it out loud to yourself. The third tool is emotional frequency tuning, and that means reaching for joy, beauty, or gratitude every day. These are rocket fuel for attraction because the law of attraction says that what you think about is what you attract. This is why a gratitude practice is so important. If you feel joyful every day, you will undoubtedly attract more joy into your life. If you feel gratitude, it will attract more of those things to your life. And gratitude can be found in the smallest things. I personally feel gratitude on such a profound level that I can be brought to tears by the simplest things. The way the sunlight streams across my kitchen, a cup of fresh mint tea, it's the feeling that is important. Good feelings draw good things towards you. And I'm going to shamelessly plug my Substack right now because that's where I write weekly about the beauty and joy of life, how I romanticize and appreciate life on a regular basis, and how I romanticize the hell out of life because I find that the more I view my life through this lens, the better it gets. You can read and subscribe to my Substack at ofinkandember.com. All right, so the fourth tool is focusing on what you want, not what you don't want. This is where I think a lot of people go wrong with manifestation and their energy. It's really easy to think about what you want in terms of what you don't want. So let's say you've got an old car and it keeps breaking down, it's got dents and scratches, and you keep spending money to fix it when what you really want is a brand new car. You keep thinking, I want a car that doesn't break down every 3 months. I wish I had a car that doesn't have dents and scratches all over it. Every time I get in this car, I feel like a failure because I'm not successful enough to buy a new one. Or I'd love a new car, but I can't afford a car payment right now. You may think you're putting your manifestation energy out into the universe, but all your thoughts in that scenario, all your thoughts and feelings are focused on the negative, on what you don't want, on what you think you can't have. When you do this, what you're manifesting is everything you don't want because it is where you're focusing your thoughts on what you don't want. To manifest and attract what you do want, completely remove what you don't want from your mind. In this example, you're not going to think about your current car at all. You are only going to think about the car you want. What does it look like? How does it drive? What features does it have? Where will you drive it? And the most important thing you can focus on is how you will feel when you have that car. How will you feel when you look out and see it sitting in the driveway? How will you feel when you're driving it? How will you feel about yourself when you're sitting in it? Take those feelings and completely embody them. When you get into your current car, pretend you are getting into your new car and feel all those amazing feelings. That is the energy that will attract what you want. And if you're ever wondering if you're doing it right, your feelings will tell you instantly. When you are thinking about everything you don't have in your current car, you probably feel frustrated, embarrassed, unworthy, a sense of lacking. These are negative feelings. So when you feel them, you will know that that is what you are drawing toward you. But when you're envisioning that new car in the driveway or you driving it with the windows down and the music up, you probably feel happy, expansive, abundant, successful, proud. You feel good. And that's the energy you want to attract. So focus on what you want, not what you don't want. The fifth tool is meditation and stillness. Manifestation requires both focus and space. Leave room for the universe to surprise you. Let go of expectations and outcomes. Sit in stillness, even if it's just quiet daydreaming for 5 minutes a day. It's in the stillness that you will receive messages, signs, and nudges from the universe. I know I missed so many signs and nudges before I started meditating. And trust that what is meant for you will come if you align yourself to it. And the sixth and final tool is inspired action. Manifestation is not passive. You are co-creating with the universe, so it often involves nudges, risks, saying yes, and showing up. You can and should journal, visualize, practice gratitude, focus on what you want, and leave room for stillness, but at the end of the day, you are still co-creating your reality. So when you feel excited and impassioned about something, follow those feelings with action. So where does this leave us? It leaves us in a reality that is far more fluid, participatory, and responsive than most of us were ever taught to believe. A reality where energy isn't just a metaphor, it's a medium. Where our thoughts and emotions are not just fleeting inner states, but formative forces that ripple outward, shaping the texture of our lives and the field around us. I think it's easy to dismiss these ideas as wishful thinking or pseudoscience until you feel the energy pulse through your body during Reiki or your heart synchronizes with someone else's without a single word exchanged. Until you say, "Send me a giraffe," and the universe does. Until you begin to play with reality gently, curiously, and reality starts playing back. That's the invitation I leave you with. Not to control every outcome or bypass hard emotions with glittery affirmations, but to remember that you are an energetic being living in a co-creative universe, that the way you feel, focus, and show up matters, that wonder and science are not opposites, they are companions. I thank you for listening and for walking this path with me. If today's episode sparked something in you, a memory, a question, or a sense of resonance, I would love to hear about it. You can find me on Substack at Of Ink and Ember, where I share more stories, reflections, and practices for living in tune with the unseen. But until next time, keep tuning in to your energy, to your heart, to what's waiting for you on the other side of belief.